The last thing my youngest son said before abandoning me at the nursing home was, "Dad, this is for the best." For the best. Funny how people always use soft words right before they destroy you. I remember sitting silently in the passenger seat while he avoided looking at me the entire drive. No music, no conversation, just silence. The kind of silence that tells you someone already made peace with hurting you. When we finally arrived, he got out quickly, almost nervously, as if he wanted the moment to end as fast as possible. He grabbed my suitcase from the trunk without saying much and walked me toward the entrance. A nurse smiled politely at me. I still remember how embarrassed I felt. Not because I was old, not because I needed help, but because deep down, I realized my own children no longer wanted me in their lives. My son signed a few papers at the front desk. Then he turned toward me and forced a smile. "We'll visit soon." He lied. I knew it immediately, because when someone truly loves you, you can hear it in their voice. And his voice sounded empty, cold, rushed, like a man dropping off old furniture he no longer needed. Then he hugged me quickly and left, just like that. 70 decades of life reduced to a goodbye that lasted less than 5 seconds. I stood there watching his car disappear from the parking lot, and honestly, that was the exact moment something inside me died. But what my children didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I had been hiding something from everyone, something that would completely change their lives after I was gone. And the worst part, by the time they discovered the truth, it would already be too late. My name is Walter. I'm 72 years old, and for most of my life, everything I did was for my family. I worked construction in my 20s, opened a small hardware business in my 30s, expanded it slowly over decades. Nothing glamorous, nothing easy, just honest work, long days, destroyed knees, back pain, stress, sacrifice. The kind of life millions of fathers quietly live without ever complaining. My wife Eleanor used to tell me I worked too much. She was probably right, but I wanted my children to have opportunities I never had. Private schools, safe neighborhoods, reliable cars, birthdays, college tuition, vacations, everything. And for many years, I truly believed they appreciated it. I had 3 children, Michael, Sarah, and Daniel. When they were young, they adored me. At least that's how it felt. They would run toward the door when I came home from work. They wanted my attention, my advice, my approval. But children grow up, and somewhere along the way, love became expectation. Then expectation became entitlement. After Eleanor died from cancer, everything changed. The house became colder, empty. I tried staying strong, especially for them, but grief changes people in ways outsiders never fully understand. You stop caring about small things. You lose energy. You become slower, sadder, more forgetful. And unfortunately, that's when people begin treating you differently. At first, my children visited often, then weekly, then monthly, then only when they needed something. Money, mostly. Michael had business debts. Sarah was constantly changing careers. Daniel had gambling problems he kept pretending were temporary. I helped all of them, again and again, even when I knew they were using me, because they were still my children. And fathers are weak when it comes to their children, no matter how old those children become. Eventually, my health started declining. Nothing dramatic,
just age, arthritis, fatigue, memory problems. My doctor suggested I stop living alone. That's when the conversations began. The conversations people pretend are about care when they're really about convenience. Michael was the first to mention assisted living. Then Sarah agreed. Then Daniel. Suddenly, all three of them were united for the first time in years. Interesting coincidence. They kept saying things like, "We just want you safe. You shouldn't be alone anymore. This is the responsible decision." But I noticed something strange. None of them offered to let me stay with them. Not even temporarily. And deep down, I think I already knew why.
One evening, they all came to my house together. That alone felt unusual. Families don't suddenly become coordinated unless something is happening. We sat around the dining table Eleanor bought 30 years earlier. The same table where we celebrated birthdays, Christmas dinners, graduations. Now, it felt like a business meeting. Michael spoke first. "Dad, we think it's time." Time. Another soft word people use before taking something from you. Eleanor reached for my hand dramatically. "We're worried about you." Daniel avoided eye contact entirely. That told me more than anything. Then Michael placed several brochures on the table. Nursing homes, assisted living facilities, retirement communities. I stared at them quietly, trying not to let them see how badly it hurt. "Are any of you willing to let me stay with you instead?" Again, silence. Eleanor looked uncomfortable. Michael sighed heavily. Daniel pretended to check his phone. And that moment, that exact moment, hurt more than Eleanor's funeral. Because grief from death is natural, but rejection from your own children? That pain changes you permanently. A week later, they convinced me to sell the house. Our father doesn't need such a large place anymore. That's what Michael told the realtor. Not, "This man built this house with his entire life." Not, "This home contains 40 years of memories." Just, "He doesn't need it anymore." I watched strangers walk through my home, judging furniture Eleanor picked herself. People opening closets, touching walls, criticizing the kitchen. I felt invisible, like I had already died while still breathing. The house sold quickly, very quickly, too quickly. And afterwards, something strange happened. My children suddenly seemed happier, relaxed, excited, almost relieved. That's when I began noticing details. Michael discussing investments nervously, Sarah talking about expensive vacations, Daniel asking questions about insurance policies. I realized something horrifying. They weren't worried about me. They were waiting for what remained after me. But here's the thing my children never understood about me. I wasn't stupid. Old? Yes. Lonely? Absolutely. But not stupid. Years earlier, before Eleanor died, I secretly sold part of my business shares. Quietly, legally, privately. The money was enormous, far larger than anyone suspected. I placed it into protected accounts under strict legal conditions. Why? Because Eleanor once told me something I never forgot. She said, "Walter, Never let money become the reason people love you.
At the time, I thought she was being overly dramatic. Now, I realized she had seen the future long before I did. After moving into the nursing home, I made a decision. I would tell nobody about the money. Nobody. Not my children, not my lawyer, not even my closest friends. Because for the first time in my life, I wanted to know something painful. I wanted to know whether my children loved me or merely loved access to me. The answer came faster than expected. The first week, they visited twice. The second week, once. By the second month, nothing. No calls, no birthdays, no holidays, nothing. I would sit near the window some evenings, pretending not to care, watching cars arrive, watching other families visit their parents, bringing flowers, food, laughter. Meanwhile, my room stayed silent. Eventually, even the nurses noticed. One nurse in particular. Her name was Emma. She was probably around 30. Kind eyes, calm voice, the type of kindness that feels rare nowadays. Unlike my children, Emma spoke to me like I still mattered. She asked about my life, my wife, my business, my memories. And strangely, talking to her became the best part of my week. Not because I was lonely, though I was, but because she listened, really listened. One evening, she found me sitting alone outside during heavy rain. I asked her something without thinking. "Do you know what the worst part of aging is?" She sat beside me quietly. "It's not pain," I said. "It's discovering how quickly people stop seeing you as human." Emma looked genuinely heartbroken hearing that, and for the first time in years, I felt understood.
3 months later, my doctor gave me difficult news. Heart failure. Serious. Progressive. Limited time. Oddly enough, I wasn't afraid. Not for myself, anyway. I had already lived a full life. But I couldn't stop thinking about Eleanor, about what she would think if she saw what our children had become. That night, I made my final decision. I contacted my attorney privately, updated my will completely. Every hidden account, every investment, every remaining business share, all of it, left to Emma. Not because I loved her romantically. People always misunderstand kindness. No, I left everything to her because she treated me with more dignity in 6 months than my own children had shown me in years. But I added one more thing, a recorded video message, not for Emma, for my children. If they wanted the truth, they would have to hear it directly from me. Weeks later, my condition worsened rapidly. Breathing became difficult. Walking exhausted me. Some nights I couldn't sleep at all. And still, my children barely visited. Michael came once, asking about financial documents. Daniel called twice, asking whether I still had certain insurance policies. Sarah sent flowers through delivery service instead of coming herself. Flowers, as if grief could be outsourced. Then, a cold November morning, I realized my body was finally giving up. Emma sat beside my bed, holding my hand quietly. I asked her something important. Did I fail as a father? She looked shocked immediately. No, but all of them abandoned me. Emma squeezed my hand gently. Sometimes good parents still raise broken people. That sentence stayed with me. Hours later, I closed my eyes for the final time.
The funeral was beautiful. Apparently, guilt makes people very generous with flowers. My children cried publicly, spoke emotionally, pretended regret. The performance was impressive. Several days later, they gathered inside the attorney's office, expecting inheritance discussions. Michael probably expected the largest share. Sarah assumed she deserved compensation for emotional stress. Daniel looked nervous more than anything. The attorney began reading the will. At first, confusion, then disbelief, then panic. Because nearly everything, every account, every investment, every hidden asset went to Emma, the nurse. According to my attorney, my children reportedly thought there had been a mistake. There wasn't. Then came the final part, the recorded video. My attorney played it on a television screen inside the office, and suddenly, there I was, older, thinner, tired, but calm. I looked directly into the camera and said, "If you're watching this, then I'm gone." I spent most of my life believing sacrifice automatically creates love. I was wrong. You abandoned me long before my death. You only visited when money was involved. You only cared when inheritance was mentioned. I waited for one of you to prove me wrong. Just one. None of you did. According to the attorney, Sarah started crying immediately. Real crying this time, not performance. Michael looked furious. Daniel couldn't even look at the screen. Then I said the final words. Emma treated me like a human being when my own family treated me like an obligation. So I left my fortune to the person who showed me kindness without expecting anything in return. And maybe that is the real verdict. The video ended. Silence filled the room. Heavy silence, the kind people remember forever. My children received almost nothing, a small amount each, enough to know they were remembered, but not enough to reward betrayal. Meanwhile, Emma used part of the money to improve the nursing home itself. Better beds, better food, better care. Funny, isn't it? A stranger honored my life more beautifully than my own children ever did. And somewhere, I hope Eleanor smiled when she saw it all happen.
The cruelest betrayals rarely come from strangers. They come from the people who know your heart completely. The people you sacrificed everything for. The people you trusted without question. But eventually, character reveals itself. Not through words, not through promises, but through actions, especially when love is no longer profitable. If you enjoy dark, emotional stories about betrayal, greed, toxic families, manipulation, revenge, and psychological truths, subscribe to Verdict Tales. Because some stories don't just entertain you, they leave scars.